My name is Linda. I'm 56 years old, and after 27 years of marriage, I thought there was nothing left that could shock me. I was wrong. It was a Tuesday. Ordinary. Boring. I had just finished loading the dishwasher when my husband, Tom, cleared his throat the way men do when they're about to pretend something isn't a bomb. Linda, I think we need a separation. 27 years. 2 children. 1 mortgage we finally paid off. Countless holidays where I cooked while he carved the turkey and took the credit. And just like that, a separation. I actually laughed. Don't joke like that, I said, drying my hands. I'm not joking. That's when everything changed. He had that rehearsed calm. The kind of calm you practice in the mirror. He said he needed space. He said he wasn't happy. He said he wanted to find himself. Men in their 50s don't find themselves, they upgrade. I asked the question every woman over 50 already knows the answer to. Is there someone else? He hesitated. That hesitation told me more than any confession ever could. He swore there wasn't. Swore on our kids. Swore on his late mother. Swore I was being paranoid. But here's what he didn't know. When you've been married nearly 3 decades, you develop a sixth sense. And mine had been screaming for months. The gym membership. The new cologne. The sudden password on his phone. Still, I didn't scream. I didn't cry. I said something I'll regret for the rest of my life. Well, maybe I should have married your sister instead. At least she listens to me. It was meant as a joke. He didn't laugh. He just stared at me. Long. Cold. Calculating. We went to bed without another word. I laid there staring at the ceiling. The digital clock glowing red in the dark. 11:46 p.m. At 11:47 p.m. my phone buzzed. A text from his sister, Karen. Now, let me be very clear, Karen and I were never close. Polite at Thanksgiving. Civil at funerals. That's it. Her message was 3 sentences. Linda, I can't stay quiet anymore. You deserve to know. The separation isn't his idea. My heart started pounding so loud I thought Tom would hear it. I slipped out of bed and walked into the hallway to read the rest. And what Karen told me in the next message. It wasn't just about another woman. It was about money. It was about betrayal. And it meant my marriage had already been over for months. What Tom didn't realize that night was that I wasn't the only one planning, and by morning, I had already made a decision that would change everything. I stood in the hallway in the dark, staring at Karen's name on my screen like it was a glitch in reality. Karen, the woman who once told me my mashed potatoes were a little bland at Christmas. Her next message came through. It started in March. They've been meeting at the lake house. It's not who you think. My stomach dropped. Lake house. We sold that lake house 3 years ago. Or at least, that's what Tom told me. My fingers went numb. I typed back, who is they? 3 dots appeared instantly, then disappeared, then came back. Finally, Tom and Melissa. Melissa, our daughter's best friend's mother. The woman who sat next to me at every soccer game for 10 years. The woman who cried on my shoulder when her dog died. The woman who called me like a sister. I had her house key. She had mine, and apparently, she had my husband too. I leaned against the wall because my knees stopped cooperating. Karen sent another message. I found bank statements in Mom's old desk. He's been moving money. Linda. He's been preparing, not for a separation, for an exit. That's when the pieces started locking into place. The new joint account he insisted we close. The financial advisor he suddenly trusted more than me. The way he kept saying, you don't need to worry about that. After 27 years of marriage, I handled every bill, every tax return, every insurance renewal. Until 6 months ago. 6 months ago. He told me I should relax more. I almost laughed out loud in that hallway. Relax. While he was draining the accounts, while he was rehearsing his speech, while he was planning a future that didn't include me, I walked back into the bedroom quietly. Tom was asleep, or pretending to be. His back was turned to me, that same back I had rubbed when he had pneumonia. That same back I stood behind in every family photo. Looked at him differently now, not as my husband, but as a man who thought I was predictable. What he forgot is something every woman over 50 understands. We survive things quietly, and when we stop talking, it's not because we're weak. It's because we're calculating. I didn't confront him. I didn't wake him up. I didn't cry. Instead, I picked up his phone from the nightstand, and for the first time in 27 years, I used his own fingerprint while he slept. What I saw on that screen wasn't just an affair, it was a timeline. And by the time the clock hit 12:03 am, I knew two things for certain. My marriage wasn't ending, it was being stolen. And I was about to steal something back. Tom always thought I wasn't tech savvy. That was his word. Cute, dismissive, convenient. He handled the complicated stuff. Remember, what he forgot is that for 27 years, I ran the back end of our life. The bills, the investments, the passwords he was too careless to change. And that night, while he snored softly beside me, I opened his messages. Melissa's name wasn't saved as Melissa, it was saved as Amateur. Their thread went back 8 months. 8 months. I scrolled slowly, methodically. No shaking now. Just cold clarity. I can't wait until she's out of the picture. She'll be fine. Linda's stronger than she looks. Stronger than she looks. I almost smiled at that. Then I saw the message that made my chest tighten. The lawyer says if we move it before filing, it's cleaner. Move it. I opened the banking app. Savings account we'd built over 3 decades, college funds, retirement cushion, emergency buffer was down nearly $180,000 transferred to an LLC I didn't recognize. I checked the date, March 14th, the same week he surprised me with flowers just because. I kept scrolling. Melissa, once the house sells, we'll finally be free. House sells. No one had discussed selling our home, the home where I brought both of our babies from the hospital, the home I painted, decorated, protected. He wasn't asking for a separation. He was executing a replacement. I quietly airdropped every screenshot to my own phone, forwarded copies to a brand new email address, took photos of the account numbers, and then I opened his email. He'd been sloppy. There it was, a draft divorce filing, not signed, not submitted, but dated 2 weeks from now. He planned to serve me after draining what he could, after setting up his exit, after softening me up with the word separation. Thought I'd cry. He thought I'd panic. Thought I'd beg. Instead, I lay back down beside him at 12:41 am and stared at the ceiling. And for the first time that night, I felt calm, because what Tom didn't know, what neither Tom nor Melissa knew, was that my name was still on every single legal document tied to that house. And I had access to something he'd forgotten about years ago. Something small, something boring, something powerful. At 1:02 am, I made a phone call, not to a friend, not to my children, to someone else, someone who owed me a favor. And by sunrise, the separation wasn't going to go the way Tom planned. The person I called at 1:02 am was not who you'd expect. It wasn't a divorce attorney, not yet. It was Daniel Harper, our original mortgage broker, the man who handled the refinancing 12 years ago when Tom's construction business almost collapsed. Daniel owed me because back then, when Tom's numbers didn't add up, I was the one who quietly fixed them. I found the accounting error that would have triggered a fraud investigation. I protected Tom's reputation, Daniel never forgot that, he answered on the third ring. Groggy but alert when he heard my voice. Linda, is everything okay? No, I said calmly. But it's about to be. I asked one question. Is there any pending inquiry on our property? Silence. Keyboard tapping. Then, there was a request for valuation paperwork last week. Pre-listing documentation. Pre-listing. Tom hadn't just planned to leave, he planned to liquidate. Without telling me, can paperwork move forward without both signatures? I asked. No. Not legally, good. But here's what Tom didn't understand. You don't need to sell a house to leverage it. At 1:18 a.m., I logged into our shared property portal. He'd requested a soft equity assessment, which meant he was trying to borrow against the house before filing, before telling me, before giving me time to react. It was strategic and illegal if concealed. During divorce proceedings, I printed everything. At 2:07 a.m., I sat at the kitchen table with a yellow legal pad. I wrote 3 words at the top. Timeline of intent. March 14th, a $180,000 transfer. April 2nd, LLC formation. April 19th. Lake House lease agreement. Last week, equity inquiry. Lake House lease. We sold ours. Yes, but Melissa's family owned one, and Tom had signed a 6-month lease. They're starting next month. Prepared, calculated, cold. At 3:11 a.m., I opened a small fireproof lockbox in my closet. Inside was something Tom hadn't looked at in over a decade, a postnuptial agreement, signed after his business scare. He had insisted it was just protection. Never read the fine print. I did. Infidelity clause, financial concealment clause, immediate asset freeze trigger. All I needed was proof of intent, and thanks to his midnight text messages, I had it. At 4:26 a.m., I emailed everything to an attorney I hadn't spoken to in years. Subject line urgent. Discreet. File at 9 a.m. When Tom woke up at 6:45 a.m., he stretched, yawned, and said, "We'll talk tonight, okay?" I smiled softly. Of course. He kissed my cheek, like nothing had changed, but something had, because at exactly 9:02 a.m. he was the one being served. Tom didn't know he was being served, not when he left for the gym at 8:10 a.m. in his new fitted t-shirt, not when he texted Melissa at 8:32 a.m. almost free, and definitely not when he walked into his office at 9:02 a.m. and a process server stepped in behind him. I know the exact time because my attorney called me at 9:07. It's done. Just like that, 27 years. And I was the one who pulled the trigger. You see, Tom planned to serve me in 2 weeks. He wanted control of the narrative, control of the finances, control of my reaction. Instead, he was handed a petition citing marital misconduct, concealment of assets, intent to defraud, through pre-divorce liquidation, activation of the POS, nuptial infidelity clause. When he called me at 9:11, his voice wasn't calm anymore. What the hell is this? I sipped my coffee. You wanted a separation. That's not what this is. No, I agreed softly. It isn't. Silence. Then the panic started leaking through. You filed against me. Linda, this is insane. What's insane? Tom is draining $180,000 and thinking I wouldn't notice. But I didn't say that, not yet. Instead, I said something that made him very quiet. Check paragraph 14. He must have, because the air shifted. The postnuptial clause didn't just protect me, it triggered an automatic financial freeze pending investigation. His LLC account frozen. The equity inquiry flagged. Any property sale attempt legally blocked. He couldn't move a dollar without court approval. You went through my phone, he said finally. I went through our marriage. I replied. He hung up on me. That's when Melissa called. Bold, stupid. Linda, she began. voice trembling but trying to sound righteous. You're overreacting. Overreacting to 8 months of betrayal, to financial manipulation, to being strategically erased. I almost admired the audacity. You know, I said calmly. You should probably speak to your husband. Silence. She didn't answer because she didn't have one anymore. What? Tom didn't know what Melissa didn't know was that I had forwarded copies of their messages to someone else that morning, someone who had no idea, and by 11:40 a.m., Melissa's world started cracking too. At 11:40 a.m., Melissa's husband, Greg, opened his email. I know this because at 11:52, my phone rang again. This time, it wasn't Tom, it was Melissa, and she wasn't calm anymore. You sent them to him? She hissed. I sent the truth. I corrected. Let me be clear. I didn't send screenshots with drama. I didn't add commentary. I didn't write a single emotional word. I forwarded their exact messages, time-stamped, unedited, clinical. Once the divorce is final, we'll finally have the house to ourselves. Greg never notices anything. That last one, that one did the damage because Greg noticed by noon. Tom's carefully constructed fantasy was collapsing from two directions. His finances were frozen, and his affair was no longer secret. He came home early, 12:37 p.m. He didn't slam the door. He didn't shout. He stood in the kitchen, staring at me like I was someone he didn't recognize. What did you do? He asked. I folded the dish towel slowly. I stopped being predictable. That's when he tried something new. Regret. Linda. This got out of hand. Out of hand. Like it was a spilled drink, not a planned betrayal. You embarrassed me at my office, he said. I almost laughed. You drained our savings. His jaw tightened. You had no right to go through my phone, and you had no right to rewrite my life. We stood there in the kitchen we remodeled together 15 years ago. The granite I picked, the cabinets I sanded, the island where our kids did homework, and for the first time in 27 years, I felt nothing for him. No rage, no heartbreak, just clarity. You blindsided me, he tried. Again. No, I said quietly. You underestimated me. That's when his mask slipped. You think you're going to win? He asked. Win? Like this was a game? He didn't know the full scope yet, because while he was busy rehearsing a soft exit, I had been reading every document, and he had made one fatal mistake. The LLC he used to move the $180,000. He registered it using our shared home address, which made it marital property, which meant everything he thought he'd hidden was traceable, and at exactly 2:15 p.m., my attorney called again. There had been a response filed, not from Tom, from Melissa's husband, and what he included in that filing changed the entire battlefield. At 2:15 p.m., my attorney's voice sounded different, alert, focused. Linda, Melissa's husband just filed a motion. A motion for what? For emergency financial injunction. I leaned back in my chair. Greg wasn't just hurt. He was strategic. Apparently, Melissa hadn't just been planning a new life with my husband. She'd been moving money to joint investments, retirement funds, even a second mortgage Greg didn't know about. Tom thought he was orchestrating one clean break. Instead, he triggered two legal wars. By 3 p.m., Tom's phone wouldn't stop buzzing. Melissa, unknown numbers, his business partner, his brother. When he finally answered one call, I watched his face drain of color. What do you mean subpoena? He snapped. Oh, it gets better. Greg had hired a forensic accountant. And guess whose name showed up connected to Melissa's consulting transfers? Tom's LLC. The same LLC he used to siphon our $180,000, which meant their secret love nest fund now looked like coordinated financial fraud. Tom ended the call and stared at me. What did you tell him? I didn't tell him anything, I said calmly. I sent proof. There's a difference. He paced the kitchen. You've destroyed everything. No, I corrected again. You built this. And here's the part Tom didn't expect. Wasn't yelling. I wasn't crying. I wasn't threatening. I was organized, printed. Binders, time-stamped files, I documented. Timeline of intent. Men like Tom prepare emotionally. Women like me prepare structurally. At 4:40 p.m., his lawyer called. I could hear the edge in the conversation. Why didn't you disclose the LLC? Yes, that complicates things. Because now there's exposure. Exposure. That word landed. Because once financial misconduct enters the courtroom, judges stop being patient. And Tom hates losing face. By 6:12 p.m., Melissa texted him one final message. I saw it light up on his screen while he stood frozen in the hallway. This wasn't supposed to happen. He didn't reply because suddenly their fantasy required lawyers, and lawyers are expensive, especially when your accounts are frozen. He turned to me slowly. What do you want? That's when I stood up, walked past him, and said the one sentence he never thought he'd hear from me. I want everything you try to take. And for the first time since 11:47 p.m. he looked afraid. Tom didn't sleep that night. I could hear him pacing at 2 a.m. At 3:17 a.m., the ice machine went off. At 4:03 a.m., the shower ran. Stress has a sound, and for the first time in 27 years it wasn't coming from me. By morning, the illusion was gone. No more rehearsed calm. No more we can handle this privately. No more soft exit. He sat across from me at the kitchen table like a defendant. What do you actually want, Linda? He asked again, not angrily this time, carefully, measured. I folded my hands. I want transparency, full forensic accounting. I want the house secured. I want retirement funds audited. And I want the lake house lease documented. His jaw tightened. That's excessive. No, I said. That's proportional, you see. When a woman over 50 is betrayed, we don't fight for romance. We fight for equity. At 9:30 a.m., his lawyer emailed mine proposing mediation, voluntary asset disclosure, temporary spousal support, no public litigation. Translation. He was scared of discovery because discovery uncovers everything. The gym membership, charge to the business account, the hotel stays labeled supplier, meetings, the consulting transfers tied to Melissa's shell invoices. At 11:15 a.m., another bomb dropped. Greg filed a joint claim naming Tom as a co-conspirator in financial concealment. Tom stared at the document like it was written in another language. This is insane, he whispered, but here's the truth. When you lie long enough, reality feels insane. By noon, Melissa stopped calling him, not because she was loyal, because she was in damage control. I later found out she was meeting with her own attorney because apparently her husband wasn't offering a quiet separation either. By 2 p.m., Tom sat down beside me, not across from me, beside, like he used to when we watched TV. Linda, we can fix this. Fix, like it was a broken cabinet hinge. You already fixed it, I said. What does that mean? It means you showed me exactly who you are. And here's the part no one talks about. The moment the heartbreak disappears, moment the grief fades, the moment clarity replaces attachment. That's the most dangerous version of a woman. At 4:48 p.m., my attorney called again. There's an opening, she said. If you move quickly, you can petition for exclusive occupancy of the house during proceedings, which meant he could be legally removed from my home, the home he planned to sell, the home he thought he'd take from me. I looked at Tom. He looked tired, older, smaller. You should probably pack a bag, I said gently. His eyes widened. You wouldn't. I held his gaze. I already did. And at exactly 6:03 p.m. the doorbell rang again. at 6:03 p.m. The doorbell rang. Tom didn't move. He just stared at me like if he stayed still enough, reality would reverse itself. I walked to the door calmly. When I opened it, there was no shouting, no drama, just a deputy, professional, polite, Mrs. Linda Carter? Yes. He handed me the document. Temporary exclusive occupancy. Order granted, effective immediately. Tom stepped into the hallway behind me. What is that? He demanded. The deputy looked at him with practiced neutrality. Sir, you've been served again. But this time, it wasn't about money. It was about space, legal space. You have 1 hour to gather essential belongings, the deputy said. You'll need to make alternative arrangements. Tom laughed once, sharp. Disbelieving, you're throwing me out of my own house. I turned slowly. Our house, I corrected. And then I held up the court order. For now, it's mine. He looked at me like I had betrayed him. The irony almost hurt. You're humiliating me, he said quietly. Humiliating, like serving me divorce papers while draining our accounts wasn't humiliation, like planning to sell my home behind my back wasn't humiliation. I didn't raise my voice. You humiliated yourself. That's when the anger cracked through. You think you've won, he snapped. This isn't over. I stepped closer. Exactly, the deputy remained by the door while Tom walked upstairs. I could hear drawers opening, suitcases zipping, the thud of hangers being ripped from the closet. Rod, 27 years of shared life, reduced to a carry-on at 6:42 p.m. He came back down, 1 suitcase, 1 garment bag, 1 laptop. He paused at the bottom step. For a second, just a second, I saw something human in his eyes. Regret, fear, ego, fighting collapse. You didn't have to do it like this, he said. I held his gaze. Yes, I did. Because here's what men like Tom never understand. We don't explode. We endure. We observe. We calculate. And when we finally move, it's precise. At 6:59 p.m., he walked past me. The deputy escorted him out. The door closed. The house went silent. For the first time in months, it felt peaceful. No secrets humming under the floorboards. No rehearsed lies at the dinner table. No man planning my erasure in the next room. Just quiet. My phone buzzed at 7:14 p.m. Unknown number. I almost ignored it, but something told me not to. I answered. Mrs. Carter. Yes, this is Detective Harris. Detective. My stomach tightened. We'd like to ask you a few questions about an LLC connected to your husband. Silence. Fill the kitchen, because suddenly this wasn't just divorce. This was criminal, and Tom had no idea what was coming next.